All right, so we're here to react real quick. We have Canada's U17 roster out. Melina Alexis, Julia Amire, Maya Agnes, Olivia Busby, Olivia Chisholm, Khadija Cisse, Emma Donnelly, Daniela Ferrer Estrada, Molly Hale, Gabrielle Listocki, Melissa Kekich, Lacey Kendall, Naomi Lofthouse, Marika Martino, Melissa McLeod, Amy Medley, Bridget Mutipula, Emma Reda, Kaylee Sandalak, Chloe Taylor, and Reed Tingley. This is going to be an interesting talking point because Canada's now in a spot now where we're going to start having those conversations of we're becoming a better step soccer nation, which means there are bigger names indeed. But let's talk about the roster as it's set. So a 21 player roster has been dropped. We'll talk about the roster, then we'll look a little bit of what we've learned from their U17s this year so far. So we have Olivia Busby in goal, Khadija Cisse, Kylie Sandaluk, Maya Angus, Emma Donnelly, Naomi Lofthouse, Marika Martino, Amy Medley, Bridget Matipola, Chloe Taylor, Julia Amire, Olivia Chisholm, Daniela Ferreira Estrada, Gabby Estake, Emma Rita, Melina Alexis, Molly Hale, Melissa Kekich, Lacey Kendall, Alyssa McLeod, and Reed Tingley. Now that's your big roster. And if you look at this roster, I decided to do a little research here and take a look at where this actually compares to. So I look at the roster that they had with the U17s tournament, and then I also look at the roster that they brought to the Mima Cup earlier this year. We had about 3 gatherings for U17s this year. And there's about a core of about 12 players who have made it through the entirety of this year playing U17. So for having a core of 12 players that have moved together, and then midfielders and forwards as they would go, I think that's a nice core to have. It's always going to bring the conversation with Canada, and I think always with Canada, we're always going to have a conversation in terms of where are we finding our best players? Are we finding our best players? Where could they be? Are we doing a better job? Are the pathways still narrow? That's always going to be a conversation. I think with the Northern Super League, it opens the door more for more opportunities. It's a new pathway, but we have to look at what we can do to improve scouting, improve player recognition, and getting players into pathways that aren't just pay to play and the likes. That's something I'm always going to be passionate about, but I wanted to bring that point up there. So, as the looks of it, when we look at the U17s, Khadija Cisse, Olivia Busby, Maya Angus, Emma Donnelly, Marika Martino, Bridget Matapula, Chloe Taylor, Olivia Chisholm, Gabby Estake, Melissa Kekich, Lacey Kendall, and Alyssa McLeod have basically played U17s throughout the year. Some of them have actually even dipped their feet into the U20s as well. So there's a lot of familiarity with this side, and they're getting ready for their World Cup, which is going to be the U17s. That starts at the end of October. And yeah, you've heard me say this on the channel multiple times. The end of this year is going to be wild. At the end of the men's U20s, the women's U17s start. At the end of the women's U17s, the men's U17s start. And then we have the women's futsal competitions. And after that, we have AFCON coming up here. And then, friendlies and the like. So content galore is coming. And one of the things that's interesting for me is especially because we bring up the NSL, there were 2 names I was curious to see if they would be entered into, right? One being Kaylee Hunter, who is second in the league in scoring and is eligible for U17s as well as U20s. So she will more than likely be eligible to play at the U20 World Cup next year, as well as she's eligible to play this year, but she wasn't named to the roster. So with a player like Kaylee Hunter, it's a very fascinating conversation in terms of, does this player need to get here? And this is one of the byproducts of having this type of a league, which is you are going to have some of these things. I remember watching the U20s this year and, having some banter with some American fans who would say, yeah, well, we didn't bring our best team. because, these 4 players who are playing in these academies or playing professionally, they didn't come. So if we brought our fully most talented team, maybe you don't beat us. And I mean, I would argue the same thing for Canada. Canada didn't have Kaylee Hunter for that as well, but Kaylee Hunter is second in the Northern Super League for goal scores. She's second in shots, right, on the Supporter Shield winning AFC Toronto side. And so not having her on this roster, it's going to conflict with playoffs, and so it's a possibility. I'm surprised they didn't name her and then hope to either squeeze her out for the final rounds, because it is 24 teams, therefore 16 to 8, 8 to 4, 4 to 2, 2 to 1. So in theory, she could play in the playoffs, and for one of the two. Canada's first match isn't till October the 19th till the 25th, and the final isn't set until the 8th of November. And so I can understand why you wouldn't want to run her from Morocco all the way back to Toronto for that. I wondered if they would do it. They didn't. But we're going to have more of those conversations now. When you have a league that's giving young players, and she's one of the young players that are getting that showcase, do you need the World Cup to really showcase yourself anymore? I think she's made a name for herself. There's no doubt. But I think that's going to be more of the norm. You're going to have clubs now asking and dictating, do we need to have this player go and play at this youth tournament? Or do we keep them here because it's more valuable for them to get regular reps and minutes? And I think for where she is, Hunter is a starter for her side. I mean, she was struggling for minutes. I wouldn't hurt to send her here, but she is a key contributor for AFC Toronto. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. But that's going to be something that's going to be coming more and more to the side. So I'm very much curious to see how this starts to look in the years to come. Even next year, Hunter is eligible to play for the U20s. Will AFC Toronto let her play at the U20s? Just something to keep in mind. And again, I'm not trying to make this a Kaylee Hunter video, but it's something fascinating. I think we've now entered this playing field, this era where this is going to be a lot more of a regular occurrence than we have been used to here in Canada. Let's look at some of the familiar things here to this roster. Let's talk about some of the new things that are coming to this roster. So outside of those, you have Naomi Lofthouse, who has played for Ottawa Rapid as well as OSU up in Ottawa, the Ottawa South Soccer Club. She's joined the side as well with Amy Medley, who's coming from the CF Montreal Academy. Julia Amira, who's coming from the North Carolina Courage, new name to the program. I think is someone who could be curious to take a look at, as well as Danielle Ferreira Estrada coming from the Rise Academy. It'll take me a little bit to get used to go from the Rise Academy versus the Vancouver Elite, but that is what it is. So if you see a lot of Rise Academy players, that is what it is. That's their accelerator there out on the West Coast. Emma Rita from the NDC in Ontario, Melina Alexis from CF Montreal, Molly Hale, and then Reed Tingley coming from the Concord Fire Club in Atlanta, Georgia. So this is the squad, and to remind you what's coming up for them, they are in Group D here at the U17's World Cup. That's going in Morocco. It's going to be every year, so there's going to be qualifications for this every year for the next 5 years. So we might see a lot of U17s get their showcase pieces there in different pathways. Canada's in the group with Nigeria, France, and Samoa. We're always with France or Nigeria. So, we might as well get ready for that friendly coming in a few years. Canada's first matchup is Nigeria, then they play Samoa, and then they play France. So it's Nigeria on the 19th, Samoa on the 22nd, and then France on the 25th. And I think that's actually a good lineup for them of matches. I think Nigeria will be the closest to them. I think athletically could be an interesting one. Nigeria at this level are always a solid side. They're always coached well. They always know what they're trying to get across on the field and accomplish there. So I think it's a good matchup for them. And they've been good games at the youth level. I think Samoa might, and with all due respect to Samoa, I think Samoa might end up being, like similar to the Fiji game the U20s had last year, with all respect to them. So I think that wouldn't be bad to build that confidence. If Canada could go maybe a draw, win, and a draw versus France would be ideal. 5 points, I think, gets you out of this group. I think they can compete with the likes of Nigeria and France with how close they've been. And I think, again, with this squad, they've had 3 camps this year. They've had one in Europe, they've had CONCACAF, they've had some prep, and then now they're going to this. So this is a group that is familiar with themselves, and I think will be very interesting to see what they're able to do. So we'll have to watch and see, but this is the roster. Canadians out there, what do you think? How excited are you to see this? Which players are you excited to look out for? And as always, we'll stop talking right here.